Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. We're outside Old Trafford to discuss the end of McFRED and who could be Erik ten Hag's best midfield three. Now it's coming towards the end of the transfer window. We could see De Jong come in, we could see a Milinkovic-Savic come in, but we're going to work with what we've got at the moment and see what could be Erik ten Hag's best midfield three. So, as we saw at the Liverpool game, you saw McTominay start as the holding six. Eriksen is kind of the box-to-box 8 and Bruno is the more attacking 8-10, but still getting back and doing his defensive duties in that midfield. But, as we spoke about on previous videos, Casemiro and Fred have a very, very good relationship at Brazil and have worked very well together. Casemiro being the obvious person to come in and replace McTominay as the number 6 at the Southampton game. When you've spent €60 million on a midfielder and you've spent that amount of money, he's won everything there is to win at Real Madrid. He's definitely going to come into this team, and I would say he's the only midfielder that you can guarantee is going to be a mainstay in that midfield for Erik ten Hag. He's got to play. He's got to play every single week. So that's what you'll see with Casemiro. He'll be the mainstay 6, and also he's the only 6 that we have. He's the only person that can play that centre defensive midfield role. So I would assume that he would be taking that up every single week. We've seen McTominay do it, we've seen Eriksen do it, we've seen Fred do it, but not all of them have the same defensive capabilities and attacking capabilities that you need as a centre defensive midfielder playing at the top level for the likes of Manchester United, which is where Erik ten Hag wants to be. So let's say that we have Casemiro definitely in as the number 6. Automatically, as the title's named, as the thumbnail's named, as I've already said, that does mean the end of McFRED. We've seen McTominay and Fred taking up that 6 role together, taking up that 6 role as like a duo position, and then Bruno playing ahead of them. Since Eriksen's come in, Ten Hag has already seemed to have broken that up. First game, you still saw them play together, but after that, you've seen McTominay get benched, but then in the Liverpool game, you've seen Fred get benched for McTominay, so you've started to see them split up. And in the Liverpool game, a very intense game where you need the best of the best. You can't afford to have teams ripping through your midfield, especially the likes of Liverpool, how easy they can transition. You saw Erik ten Hag trust Eriksen in that number 8 role, and he stuck to his position very, very well. Eriksen is Erik ten Hag's signing, so I would assume that he has a very good chance of consistently getting into this team, and I would say if he can keep his position and dictate that number 8 role the way he did against Liverpool. He was really professional, kept himself in and around the box in the centre of the pitch, but also made decisions when to get forward, when to drop back. And you could see he was tiring towards the end of the game, but overall he's a very consistent player that gives you technicality from the middle of the pitch in what we've lacked with McTominay and Fred previously. So I can see Eriksen taking up that role. A question mark over Bruno Fernandes. Erik ten Hag's captain last game, consistently been part of this team, whether he's been in poor form, but Bruno is someone that Erik ten Hag will like because of his work rate and the way he works for the team. You've seen Erik ten Hag come out and say that you need work rate, you need mentality, you need consistency. Bruno hasn't always been consistent with his form, but with his energy and his work rate, you've seen that consistency throughout his career at Manchester United. It's just about getting his form on track. But then you also have the likes of Donny van de Beek, who we thought we'd come in and see under Erik ten Hag, that hasn't seemed to get much game time, got 10 or 15 minutes here and there. And then with the likes of De Jong potentially coming in, it's interesting to see what could be Erik ten Hag's best midfield 3. So you have the option of Casemiro, Fred and Bruno, and that option I think is unlikely to see, because I think Erik ten Hag kind of figured out that Fred and McTominay aren't very good technical players, which is what he wants in the middle of the pitch, which is why you saw Eriksen even play as a 6 at times in that game against Brentford, which is why you've seen Eriksen consistently picked in this team even when he was playing false 9. So I don't think Fred has as good a chance of Eriksen, but if he did play, it's an interesting thing to know that Brazil have only lost 1 game together when they have both played. That was the Copa America final against Argentina. And they've had 70 games, 15 wins and 13 clean sheets together in midfield. So as we did in the video previously, I'm not going to go into too much detail now, could Casemiro bring out the best in Fred? Because when you've got a holding midfielder that can run that line in front of the back 4, that can dictate the play, that can hold his position and that can direct the rest of the midfield, you might see the qualities of Fred, that the weaknesses of Fred that have been poor to his game improve. The fact that he always leaves his position, the fact that he can dive in and gets left exposed, the fact that his aerial ability isn't too good, them factors could all be improved with Casemiro, who's got the best aerial stats out of every midfielder we've got now, even McTominay, who's been being picked for height. And he also knows positionally where to be on the pitch. It seems like when Fred plays with Casemiro for Brazil, he really excels in that box-to-box role and has a lot more freedom, as well as keeping his tenacity and keeping that ability to kind of nick the ball off players and be like a wasp around people's feet. So he's a good option, but I would say, get in the comments down below what you think, but I would say as a squad option, as a backup option. I personally think the midfield three will be, as it stands, Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno. And the reason I think that is because you've got Eriksen, who can be disciplined, technical, can get forward, can also do his defensive duties, getting back, and he's a really experienced player to go alongside Casemiro in that midfield. He knows how to win games, and he works well with Bruno as well. We've seen when Bruno works with him, you see less of these Hollywood passes. You see a more technical side of Bruno, and I think in that midfield two together, if they stay disciplined, if Bruno stays disciplined, they could definitely work. And with the likes of Bruno, if he's going to be a mainstay in that team as a 10-8 kind of role, he's got to be more disciplined. And even with his work rate, we've seen in the past the way that he runs, and sometimes he's running into dead ends, sometimes he's leaving gaps in the midfield, sometimes he's trying to do too much. Since Erik ten Hag has come in, you've seen his pressing runs become more disciplined. You've seen the way he holds his position. You've seen the way that he presses when he's out of position and in possession is different. So you see different things starting to develop in Bruno's game, and his leadership qualities could be vital in the middle of that pitch. But another option that you could have is if Erik ten Hag wanted to play a more technical game. For example, against Liverpool, it's a very physical game. It's a game where you're going to need legs in midfield. It's a game where you're going to be battling for the ball consistently. The likes of McTominay comes in for that physicality, that height. Someone who's not very good on the football, but he's very physical, he's good in the air. When you need that height against tall attackers, he could be someone that could be utilised in that way. Erik ten Hag has said he wants to use his entire squad. We've seen that creeping in at the Liverpool game, and you can definitely see that happening moving forward. So you're dealing with a tall player, you're dealing with a team that's very physical. McTominay could come in. You're dealing with a team that's very quick on the ball, that is tenacious, that's fast, and he's going to run through that midfield with its speed. Fred could come in. He's very tenacious. He gets in and around people in the midfield, and as an option off the bench when you're trying to defend a game, he could potentially come in for one of the forwards. He could still get game time. Then you've got Donny van de Beek. When you're playing a more technical game, when you're trying to break down the defence, which is what we'll be doing at the likes of Southampton, you can't just ping a ball through to Rashford and it's going to work. That can happen in occasion, but it's less likely to happen against the teams that you're going to have to break down and play a low block. That's when the likes of Donny van de Beek can come into this team, potentially for Bruno, potentially for Eriksen. And you can have a midfield that's really good at holding the ball and can break through the gap. So what I think Erik ten Hag is actually doing here is building a multifunctional midfield that he can swap and change to fit different types of games. We've always talked about how we want to play one way and we want to take our game to the opposition, but I think Erik ten Hag's worked out this Premier League is very strong. He's going to need players with different attributes. Getting in a Casemiro, who is a defined six, an expert in the sixth role, an expert CDM, having the physicality and the height of McTominay, who isn't the best player. He should be on the bench for Manchester United. He shouldn't be anywhere near that first team. But as a squad player, can come in certain games and do a job. The same as Fred, has that tenacity, doesn't have the height, doesn't have the aerial ability, but he's quick, he's energetic, he's got pace. He coming in there and giving you that sort of element to the game. Having Bruno, an out-and-out leader, someone that's quick, someone that can do that Hollywood ball, someone that is going to be more creative and is going to create chances. Let's not forget, last season Bruno was up there for top creator in the league for a very, very poor season with Manchester United, and a poor season for him. The year before that, his creativity was massively paying off. He was in and around the box, and he was a very, very good goal scorer as well. That form can come back for him. So having him as a more attacking option, having Donny van de Beek, who can feed that striker and play in behind that role and give you that killer pass, but from a more technical position where he can read through the lines and read through the spaces. Having Eriksen, who can spread the play and has a really disciplined game in the fact that he can dictate a midfield through the way he controls the ball at his feet, but also gives you that option from a free kick perspective. We saw at Liverpool when he did that free kick on the edge of the box, how much that he's improved our team, because in games last season we had Ronaldo over free kicks, we had Bruno over free kicks, we had Rashford over free kicks, but all these players were out of form. Free kicks, the set pieces are wasted. We saw corners were consistently wasted. Having someone of Eriksen's quality who can whip that ball in off a free kick, can potentially score from a free kick, has really precise corners, gives a different element to the game. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is, personally, my best midfield three has the physicality and the expertise, the positional discipline of Casemiro at that 6, with his defensive discipline and crying out for a number 6 to help Manchester United. You can afford to have 2 more attacking midfielders in there with the likes of Eriksen and Bruno. We've seen Eriksen can hold his position. We can see that he can play as an 8, which allows Bruno to get a little bit further forward and also has to take discipline into his game. I definitely think as a consistent midfield 3, looking at the strengths of everyone who we've got, they fit the bill the best. But for other games, you never know. You will see Erik ten Hag rotating this squad and rotating players in. Mainstay being Casemiro, but I don't think Bruno's safe. I don't think Eriksen's safe. We know that Donny, Scott and Fred are all there as squad players to come in and fill in. But you never know, if they get their chance in the team and they excel, more like the likes of Donny, I think, has the most capacity to do that, because we've not seen him on a consistent basis. McTominay and Fred, we know their limitations, we know they have to be squad players, but for now you're not going to see Fred and McTominay in that midfield together. You're going to see them on the bench with along with a lot of other options, and I'm very excited to see this. If we get a De Jong in, if we get a Milinkovic-Savic in, it could get even better. The depth that Erik ten Hag is creating with this midfield is actually really exciting. We've gone from one of the worst midfields in the league, and if we got the likes of De Jong in, a Tielemans or a Milinkovic-Savic, potentially one of the best, and has great depth, and like I was speaking about, with multifunctional different uses and different strengths to each of the game. This is why I think Erik ten Hag is a brilliant coach. He's identified the weaknesses that previous managers haven't done. We've been crying out for a CDM for a long time. We've been crying out for the end of McFRED for a long time. It took him a pre-season and 2 Premier League games to end the era of McFRED. So I think everyone's got to be happy about what Erik ten Hag is doing with this midfield, and that is the most important part on the pitch. You never know, he's going to start doing it with the defence, he's going to start doing it with the attack when he gets different transfer windows and he fills his priorities and moves on to the next priority. So I'm excited to see how Erik ten Hag balances this midfield for the season going ahead, and make sure you guys get in the comments down below, who would your best midfield 3 be? Do you think we need to still sign a De Jong, a Tielemans? Who would you want to sign to add to the depth? And get in the comments down below what you think the midfield 3 will be for the Southampton game. A bit of a different team than Liverpool, but a team that we have players in the squad now, Donny, Eriksen, who can break that down, and we've not had them in the team last season when we've gone against these low blocks. So get in the comments down below, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next topical video.